to some extent still feels like early days. But if we follow as a business, and a product, our trajectory over the last few years, we're still very much focused on a kind of a core broadcaster-centric proposition for clients, obviously with audience and data measurement overlaid with that. But as we all know, TV viewing is changing, and it's changing at a dramatic pace, accelerated over the last year and a half, with viewers still watching broadcast and live TV, but in increasing numbers, and particularly at those lower age demographics, watching more on demand and also watching TV on newer platforms, and new market entrants making the options for TV viewers all the more diverse. So the likes of Roku and Rakuten and Pluto and Amazon, no doubt, will be coming soon with their TV proposition, is really mixing things up. And the choice for viewers now is so broad, as well as devices. So at Finecast, we have evolved with that, I would say, but with a focus throughout on quality and professionally produced content.
So Harry, how do the brands navigate to these new opportunities, and how do you guide them? And what does addressability mean? And what are some of the changing expectations from your brands?
Yeah, and again, we work with, well, we had the fortune to be part of Group M. So inside and outside of Group M, we work with over 300 different advertisers across all verticals. So we've got a good view on that, I think. And although it's evolving, we're seeing three kind of main roles for addressable TV or TV streaming advertising come out, and they're pretty distinct. The first is what we call a sort of a total TV strategy. So it's often for those bigger budget, more mature, experienced TV advertisers who are looking to maximize reach from linear onto on demand, particularly to find those harder to reach audiences. And our job at Finecast is to really help them optimize that, find the most cost-effective, optimal reach possible across on demand and live. So that's the first thing. The second is more of an addressable-only opportunity. And we're seeing this as kind of advertisers that are looking to sort of effectively and efficiently identify and reach more bespoke audiences, which obviously addressable enables to drive better results. So that's more for sort of a mid to lower funnel performance activities. And then the third, which is perhaps the most exciting of all, is this new to TV opportunity. And I say it's exciting actually because what it is doing is that addressable has allowed a wider range of brands to access TV advertising. And that's due to agility, a lower cost of entry, i.e. you don't need the big budgets that TV has often been associated with. Smaller budgets can still allow smaller scale-up brands, startup brands to target their priority audiences, avoiding wastage, and also the ability to, try and test and iterate around creative and audiences. So those are the three that we're seeing, and that covers a lot of our client base.
Identity seems to be playing a bigger role, and of course, you've worked with identity over the years, but it's sort of changed, and also certain signals have changed. There are new signals. I know WPP is doing quite a lot around identity. How does identity fit into the operations and kind of what you can accomplish?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and it's a tricky one to answer, actually, because so much is changing at the moment. Just in the last week, we've heard of the third-party cookie era, the end of that being delayed, up to 2023. So that's changed. So people's understanding of ID is now sort of being reset a little bit. And I know that Google have got their Flock sort of cohort alternative. That will obviously have a massive role to play across digital advertising generally. We've seen contextual targeting, of course, and measurement come to the rise. But I would say within addressable TV, it's certainly in our world, it's slightly strange in that we've never worked with cookies actually within Finecast, because our identifiers, our keys are actually around location and postcode and household. And so I feel comfortable that we've got a sort of a future-ready data strategy for targeting and measurement that has been immune to some extent from the changes in the sort of the world of cookies and IDs. That's not to say that innovations aren't going to come along, etc., where we can do more around that. But where I just feel like we sort of have the slightly unique position at the moment, and that's been great for us. The other thing I would say actually is around sort of measurement and effectiveness, if we're talking about identity and attribution, and that things like sales, brand, footfall measurements, these are things that are really front of mind for advertisers at the moment, and we're focusing a lot of our efforts on it is proof. So I think all of this, whether it's the end of the third-party cookie era, whether it's the rise of contextual, whether it's the kind of new identifiers particularly around location, very, very good for TV, very good for streaming, and the players and the brands that are associated with that.
And Harry, what would you tell brands that are starting out streaming? As you say, there's many opportunities. What would you tell them? And also, what are some expectations of brands that are looking at streaming for the first time?
Yeah, I think it's changing, it's growing. Addressable is becoming more abundant. And as new players come into the market, that's become more so. As more inventory becomes addressable, we're now looking at linear addressable with our partners, and as a sort of a new product innovation. Now that completely changes the game, and we're going to reach a point soon-ish, I would say, of mass scale. And at that point, media planners will start to lead with addressable audiences, maximizing reach against specific cohorts, and then filling the gaps with broader audiences, as opposed to the other way around. So within all of this change, I think brands and advertisers have really got to hypothesize, test and learn, and develop their own TV planning USP. So test, learn, iterate, repeat, massively important. That's for new brands and existing brands. Take that plunge, have a willingness to experiment and figure out what works for them. The other thing, and is often neglected in the media world, is creative. Do not forget about the creative. I think with addressable more than ever, there is an importance to focus on that. Our research says there's a very compelling case for getting the relevant creative message in front of the right audience, but also on the right screen around the right content. So strong correlation between perceived relevance and likelihood to take action. So I think creative relevance, massive priority for anyone advertising on addressable TV these days.